see, that's growing up in art.
Absolutely.
I see the obvious faults, and there's things right back to the very first one. There are bits I would simplify now. Why use 10 strokes when you just need one?
But that, as you say, is how
that's a lifetime.
How it's come
that's
to you.
Taken you 70 years to get to here. 70 years.
And here you are, with this amazing exhibition.
And this to me is the culmination, and especially in the Maclaurin.
As you were our first patron, it's perfect, Helen.
For me, to have my retrospective here is a great honour indeed, and I'm just loving every moment of it. But the journey didn't start here. It's kind of coming to its conclusion here. Not that I'm stopping painting, I'm going on painting. But the story doesn't start here. The story starts when I was about 8. I knew I was going to be something in paint. I was wanting to work with paint. I didn't like school. I didn't want to learn to spell or any of these sensible things. I was just happy to get working with paint. So I knew I was all right. My mum and dad, on the other hand, were worried about what was going to become of me. And they were hopeful that maybe I'd get married and just settle down. I knew where I was going, and I was always wanting to be part of paint and use paint and paint pictures. Very early on, my dad used to bring home the war posters, Graham Sutherland. I used to copy those, and there were cathedrals all broken up and puddles and ropes and tin cans, and there were beautifully muted beiges and blues, and I worked with those wee hard cakes that they give you at school that you get funny colour out of it. But my mother was sent for, and I didn't know this till years later, to come down to see the teacher, because they were worried about Helen as well. The world was worried about me. And she was worried, they were worried, because I was producing these paintings that were not little houses with a washing line and a blue sky and a red roof and the mummy with the pram and the daddy coming home with his hat on. They weren't paintings like that. She said, Helen's paintings are broken buildings and puddles and broken roads, and we're thinking there's something wrong with her. And I said, it was explained that I was using those posters and my dad was bringing them home, and perhaps that was influencing. So that was all glossed over. The early stages, I went into a competition, and I don't know whether any of you will remember Uncle John in the Daily Express. Do any of you remember him? I'm beginning to feel very much older. The Satchel Club. Oh, the Satchel Club. Well, I won the Satchel Club. It was for a drawing, and I won the satchel. And that started me on the road. But to be fair, I really wanted to do something with paint from a very early age.
Did you go straight into the carpet business from school?
Absolutely, 15. Straight into Templeton's.
And you just knew that that was something you were
I
going
knew
to
it.
be able
I
to
loved
do?
it instantly. Why did I love it instantly? It was thick paint. The paint is thick. It wasn't watery like school paint. It was thick, juicy, vibrant paint, and I became a slab boy. And I mixed up the colours for the big designers, the men. There was no women. I was going to be a copyist. But after a year, I didn't want to be a copyist. I wanted to draw the originals. That's what I wanted to do. And that's where I started. But I had to leave Templeton's to do it. They wouldn't make a lady into a designer because it was a man's world.
Oh, yes.
You could not
Those
cross
were the
that.
days when the men
No.
got it all.
And so when I discovered this, I thought, well, I've got to move on. So I went to Lyle's in Farnook Street. And they were advertising for ladies to train as carpet designers. And that was a big change because they had trained men, but men had got the training and then left and gone down south, got bigger money. Now that's where I say in life, there's a lot of luck. You get that wee bit of luck. And that was my bit of luck. I got my foot in the door of designing. And with Lyle's, I got a super training. From 8:30 in the morning till 10 o'clock, I had roses in a big tea chest, in a bottle, and a spotlight, and I kept turning them around and painting them, and you got 10 minutes to paint them. And if you hadn't finished in the 10 minutes, it didn't matter. He just came along and he turned them around. You weren't fast enough. So you learn to read flowers very quickly. So the training I was getting in Lyle's made me fast, made me very quick. I could measure very quickly because the boss wouldn't let us linger. He'd just come along and you were doing a bit and he'd just turn it around. He'd say, oh, dash it all. He's turned it around. And then you'd have to start again and time it. And then you whittled it down to 5-minute studies. And when you got to 5-minute studies, you were really doing very, very well. And then I got doing designs. And as soon as I started, do you ever think in life you've found your niche? You pick up the brush and it's thick paint, it's lovely thick paint, and you put it on and you know you're where you want to be. Well, I knew at that moment that was where I wanted to be. I loved working with the thick paint and drawing the flowers and creating the designs. And when you eventually go through there, you'll be able to see what I mean. But my leaning is towards flowers. That piece there is 1956, and it's homework. We had to do homework every Wednesday. We had to paint something and take it into the boss.
This was it?
At Lyle's.
At Lyle's.
His name was Richard Bird. And unfortunately, we called him Dickie Bird. And unfortunately, I whistle a lot. I'm never conscious I'm whistling, but unfortunately, I was whistling, got a little red robin, rock, walk, 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 walking to Missouri. The wee bird was a robin. And I must have been whistling it several times. I kept on whistling it. And this day he came out, Dickie Bird, and he said, if you whistle that song again, you won't have a job by tonight. So I just didn't whistle any bird songs at all. He was a tricky guy. He was tricky. That was a bit of homework. However, I left there because one day he sat down at the desk and I had a beautiful back view painted of a flower. And the back view is the hardest view. And he wiped mine out and he did his version. And we looked at each other. We looked at each other and we instantly knew that I was better than him. And he knew I was better than him when he looked at me. Do you ever get, that's a feeling, another little sensation you get. I knew I was better. I knew I had to go. I knew I had to leave that company and go to another company. So I wrote Graves of Air and I moved on to Grays. And they were a magnificent company. They catered for carpets, I would have said, for millionaires. They were beautiful carpets, and they had a colour bank of thousands. When I painted a design, as you'll see next door, they took the design and they matched the colours to it perfectly. A lovely, lovely company to work for, and we produced a lot of good cloth there, and I enjoyed it very, very much. When I started working for those companies, I had to find a mode of transport where I could get out with my boards and paint. And I had a pedal bike with a little power pack on your bikes. Well, I had a little power pack, and you used to have to dry the tire if it was raining and pedal like the devil. And the engine fired. That took me out to Waterfoot, Busby, Eaglesham for painting. And I made a little case to slide my boards in so that I was marginally dry. And I had a big high windscreen on it. Just imagine what that looks like going down the road with all this plastic flapping and this big high windscreen on a pedal bike and these boards all tied. So after I got rid of that one, I bought a scooter. Do you remember Lambrettas and Vespas? Get along better, get a Lambretta. I didn't buy a Lambretta. I bought a Piatti, an Italian Piatti. I bought it because it was beautiful. It was like a sausage with two little wheels. And it had a beautiful windscreen, and it had a white tray at the back, and a white tray at the front, and a salmon pink seat. And it was beautiful, and it carried all my stuff. I put all my boards in the front and my paint box in the back. And I got on it, and it wouldn't go. It wouldn't go. Then eventually you would get it going, I would get out and do things, try to get on your bike again to come home. No, it was Italian. And I had a wee door down at the side of the sausage. There was a wee door, and the carburetor was in there, and it was lying on its side. I mean, you think of it now, it's silly. A carburetor is lying on its side. So that was the problem with it, but I made a lot of friends with that Piatti. I went on to BMK, and that was my last company. BMK went through a sticky period for their domestic designs, and indeed were taken over by a new owner. And the new owner was concentrating on exports, nothing else but exports. However, it was a lovely area to be in. The contract market was superb, but by that time I was beginning to think, I really want to be a full-time artist. I was about 53, and it really was time. If I was going to be a painter, now was the time. So I gave up that lovely job through there, and I moved into painting.
Now, I know that your carpet designs have gone all over the world.
All over the world.
Are any of them still being produced, do you know?
I don't know that. A lot of the companies I work for and with are no longer with us. They're no longer here. And so what has happened now to the work that's here is it's now in the archives in the Glasgow University. And they are keeping that for posterity. So that's where those are. Whether there's any even still in situ, whether I could say the Plaza New York, go to the Plaza, you'll see my big chintz. I don't know whether it's still there. I mean, it was 22, 23 years ago. It'll be worn.
It would be worn.
It'll be worn. Yeah.
But maybe a piece of it. Maybe a piece
Maybe
of it.
a bit of it. In there are little miniatures, tiny wee chintz miniatures in frames.
We must take a look at
they're
those.
below one of the paintings. I started those in 1981 because the firm had crumped and we were going out of business, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to have a job. Got to support my mum and my 3 dogs. How am I going to do that? So I started painting those little miniatures. Do you know that those miniatures shot off my desk?
I'll bet they did.
I got so many orders for miniatures. They shot
No
away.
wonder it didn't come as a big surprise to you when you left the carpet business and decided.
I decided I was going to be an artist. And I've had 24 years in this full-time. And I have never, ever regretted giving up my day job, as they say, and moving into this. And the most important section in this room is the little thumbnails, because your thumbnails you do outside. A lot of paintings I have painted outside. The whole painting, the whole canvas is covered, and I painted outside, but it took me an hour and a half, and it could change from sunshine to rain. I go out with my crayons. I can do 5, 6, 10 sketches outside and come home and decide if I'm going to paint that one today. You go outside. This is Arasaig from the sea, looking at the purple hill and the little cluster of houses.
And
I've
how long
painted all of those.
does one of those take?
20 minutes.
My word, Helen, they're wonderful.
Don't let it drag on for longer. If it does, you'll start to overwork it and it gets dirty and overworked. So 20 minutes, if you haven't got it in 20 minutes, forget it. That's my old Le France, 50 odd, 60 years old. And a lovely, lovely dog. And we decided we'd live dangerously and try to do 3 heads, 3 different poses of the dog. And that board that's the biggest pastel I've ever done.
He was the biggest dog.
He was the biggest dog. He needed the biggest board. This is a painting of Plockton. And as you go through the exhibition, you'll see this was painted about 1956. Oh, 58, I was out. About 58. And you see it's all trowel work. I found a trowel. This is all trowel.
like...
That's all trowel.
You like thick paint.
I like thick paint.
Do you still like thick paint?
I
Well,
still
we'll see
like
as we go
So
through.
you'll see I use a trowel somewhere now, not everywhere. But then I enjoy doing design. I love designing. Designing was a great thing. And it was a terrible choice to say, stop designing now, Helen, and be an artist. That
So
was a
what
big
made-
choice.
What made you make that change?
Well, I was 53. That was one of the factors. I was 53, going on 54. My mum wasn't well, and so I decided now was the moment I had to stop. One job, one career, now or never, become an artist. And it was a fairly easy choice because I knew Mum needed me at home. She
And you
really did.
also must have been selling quite a lot of your
Oh
paintings.
yes. I've
by
sold
that
paintings
stage.
since I was 17. I've sold paintings. Annan's gave me my big start.
Annan's in
Annan,
Glasgow.
Craigie Annan, with his wee hard stubbly hair, and he was smaller. He was way down there. I could pat his head. He looked at paintings not like that, but he looked along them like that to see what the sort.
He would love you.
So he loved those.
Yes, he would.
He loved those.
Now,
Maybe
you
a
see,
bit of
this
it.
doesn't look... I would never have guessed that was a Helen Turner.
That's a Helen Turner. That's English. I had crossed the border.
Uh-huh.
I had gone into England. It's the last post mill in England, and not long after I painted it, the Vandals burned it down.
Oh.
It's timber. It's all timber on the top. And I moved those trees. Those trees weren't there. Those trees were away over here.
That's artistic
That's
license.
artistic license. So I moved them in, and just to give me something here. I wouldn't do that now, though. There would have been something there that I should have been able to catch on to allow me to paint it with the space that would have been there. The one right down at the very bottom is painted from the hen run in the School of Art. You know, they were all up there smoking the reefers, you know? But I climbed up higher until I was into an alcove,
And you could see.
and I could see out there. Those two are the very earliest pieces that I have got. Start with up here, this particular painting, a link through from that gallery to the new work that's in this gallery. And if you look at it, it's all trowel.